to people on Zoom. All I said is, octopus is my hero. It's my aspiration as a vision and a robotics researcher. And everything we do here assumes so much knowledge. It's everything so rigid. Let me get this out of the way. Okay, how do I get this out of the way? Oh, okay. Okay, great. All the sensory information that's given to us is only a partial observation about the 3D, spatially temporal evolving world we can observe. And all the computer vision problems, and people have come to the methodology that for each task, you just need data, because the architecture seems to be flexible enough to accommodate any input output you want the model to learn. For example, reconstruction, segmentation, and recognition. Here's an example. This dominant approach in computer vision nowadays is a supervised, undifferentiated, multitask learning. These are each image with a heading, illustrate one task. There's no differentiation whatsoever. And I think this is also behind the desire to go for simulation and 3D vision, because once you are in simulated environment, you know everything. You can learn anything. Here's another example, segment anything model. And now there's more, depth anything, right? Meta introduced this revolutionary image segmentation model trained on 1 billion masks on 11 million images. And you can see that it takes an image and a prompt, for example, a point prompt, and try to output possible segments that contain that point. Now, I modified the diagram to shrink the diagram. That's not so important. I want you to recognize that they already have a need to spit out the 3 possible segments, okay? And for recognition, if I want to give the model the sense of French cat, I have to collect all the images. I search French cat. Here's an image of French cat. There's another instance, so on and so forth. All the large vision language model is essentially doing the drilling, right? You have a lot of flashcards. You want the model to distill the knowledge in the image and text association. In this sense, learning is drilling. What I'm aspiring to is a developmental AI. It's a baby that don't have anything. You don't have preconception. And the baby only has access to finite objects in the environment. And for the baby, learning is mulling. It's mulling over the relationship between the objects she sees at this moment and next moment, and from different viewpoints, different distance, so on and so forth. So I liken our learning as the model and the researcher. Liken this as a baby versus adult, okay? When we come up with this list of tasks, we are essentially fall back into this mindset of drilling the model. We define the task. We think that's what the baby needs. But what the baby really has, baby doesn't understand the language at that point, doesn't have any preconception of the objects. So the baby has to make sense of all the sensory information it gathers. It needs to make sense of the sensory information. It needs to make sense of the world it lives in. So with the development of all these foundation models, we have so many toolboxes. It's not just learning is difficult. There are so many tools. And the baby needs to figure out how to utilize all these tools to accomplish the task you want the baby to do. And by the way, I couldn't resist. So I have to make another swipe at this thing. This was generated by ChatGPT, okay, today, okay. I tried my best. You can see that nothing is grounded. You can see the floating tools. it doesn't respect the occlusion relationship, so on and so forth. But that's the best I come up with. Nothing is grounded. It has sophisticated understanding, but no concepts is grounded. Okay. So in order to see from baby's point of view, you really have to see what baby actually receives from the environment. Here's a sense. Light is flickering, right? Chaotic. You don't know what are the causes of these light sensory inputs. Here is what adult vision would see. It's simple, it's easy. The world is not random. There are only a few concepts you need to grasp. You take one glance, you already understand everything. And we want to go from the left to the right without supervision from enormous amount of text and annotations. This problem, to me, it is like making sense of this boiling soup. Everything is hodgepodge, buzzing with opportunities. And the job is to figure out from this undivided sensation to this bounded rationality. Okay. So we cannot have any supervision. So the question I ask myself is, what can we learn from nothing but data? Here you can see these different video clips. You look at this, again, as I mentioned previously, mother carrying a baby, walking on beach, so easy, so simple, few words, you kind of get the gist of it. But you have to think from a baby's point of view, because it does not have a concept of objects. It does not have concept of lighting, so on and so forth. So the first work I want to talk to you about is our unsupervised learning of generic objects. Just from unlabeled data, you dump this data onto our model. We are going to figure out, put a hotspot on each frame, capturing what potential objects could be. We have no concept of what these objects are, but at least we have isolated, we have accomplished grouping, figure out the figure versus ground. This problem is routinely formulated as video object segmentation. The challenge is that on one end, you have brown elephant against green grass. Simple color segmentation would do. On the right, you have this camouflage animal. If I stop, if I pause at the moment, you may not be able to see the animal if I don't box it. And in reality, most of the videos come in between. The giraffes moving in a group, the motion is different. The parts are different, yet we see them, we see individual motion, we see the group motion. And so obviously we need to take both appearance and motion into account. Each is useful in certain settings. But the idea is simple, but when you take two cues into account, you have complications. For example, the gray alligator, it's not easily differentiated when it turns around. And what you see when it moves is not what you see in an individual frame. And then sometimes there's just too much motion. It's causing distraction. So here's my setting. Sequence of image as input and sequence of image with the foreground mask segmented as output. Usually people treat this as a multi-cue integration problem. From the sequence of image, you can calculate optical flows. And then it's about how can I integrate segmentation based on appearance alone and segmentation based on optical flow alone and come up with an integrated result. We turn the problem the other way around. You asked me for one set of outputs, that's segmentation. I'm gonna volunteer another set of unknowns. That's the flow per segment. I don't know what they are. I don't have anything. I don't have ground truth. I'm gonna ask for two sets of unknowns, including what you are asking me to do. So let's review the basics. Optical flow is simply displacement across frames in 2D. Here's a schematic show. The horse has moved and you find a corresponding point and how much displacement there is in the image. Now, usually this is solved by giving image I and a J, and you just minimize the appearance differences. And this is done specific to image pair as independent between pixels. That's the basic version. Our concept of segment flow is not much different, except that we assume each segment moves at a constant displacement. All the pixels in the segment moves together. And so we extended the basic error function. Instead of per pair of image, we summarize this over all the training pairs. It's a statistical loss. And we assume the flow should be same per segment. The concept is simple enough, but the problem is we don't have segmentation. Segmentation is unknown. So given this formula, we are gonna learn segmentation and the flow at the same time. And we don't have ground truth for either of them. So the idea is that given an image, I have segmentation word spits out some segmentation. I don't know what the ideal segmentation should be. Given a pair of images, adjacent ones, I'm gonna estimate flow. I don't know what that is, but it's like I'm a director. I'm setting up the stage. I tell one actor, you need to give me segmentation. I'll tell the other one, you need to give me flow. And I'm looking at both outcomes. If I have both, I know each segment, how it moves. I should be able to copy and paste, generate the next frame. I actually have the next frame. I have the data. I'm gonna close the loop. I'm gonna compare. And that allows me to learn both segmentation and flow at the same time. Now, in order to have minimum reconstruction loss, two things have to be correct at the same time. If you have the right segmentation but the wrong flow, it won't work. If you have the right flow but not the right segmentation, the other way, it has to be that both segmentation and flow should should match what's actually happening. So for those these are the details of a model. Segmentation is just pixel-wise soft labeling, softmax over every pixel, indicating your membership to each segment. Let's say I have 5 channels, okay? And I take 2 frames, extract features, and I'm gonna compute feature correlation volume. Now, here's the interesting bit. I'm gonna look at each channel, which is the soft segmentation. I'm gonna pull all the correlation features into one average feature. And then I'm gonna predict the 2D flow. So my flow is conditioned upon my segmentation, okay? So now I ensure that each segment only has one flow. I'm gonna broadcast the flow to every pixel. And then I can do copy, according to this, each pixel can move accordingly. I can do copy and paste, and no decoder involved. And then I'm gonna go for the loss. We train such a simple model on YouTube VOS, which has 4,000 videos. Each is roughly 5 seconds long, covering 94 categories. We don't use these categories, okay? We only have videos. And now we are curious, what will our model learn? Top row is an image, and we have 5 channel segmentation. And these are the output. We try another example. You have this segmentation. It looks like the first channel is picking out the moving object. We look at all these examples, and here's our aha moment. What happened? Even though the 5 channels were born equal, there's no design preference. We don't know what these 5 channels are, but somehow all the objects show up in one specific channel. They are not distributed across channels. That was a surprising moment. And we tried to understand why and how. So we did some analysis based on the fuzziness of the mask. The object in this channel is most clear. You can see from the example, you can see from the statistics. If we look at the reconstruction error, next frame reconstruction, that channel has the largest error. And if you look at the rough statistical mean and spectrum, there is some center bias. It's just the, the cameraman is trying to keep the moving object in track. But there are some videos that it's a static camera and the objects are moving. Okay, this is statistics. So what really happened? If the segmentation is really just based on appearance, that's the input. Similar, it really just doing segmentation based on appearance. But now I'm coupling the motion estimation and the segmentation together. I distill the motion flow into the appearance modeling, because these two have to resonate, to be in synchrony with each other. When they are offset with each other, you will have the largest error. So once the model is trained without any labels, we can see the performance on these three very distinctive data sets, video data sets. And we can do zero-shot video object segmentation. You can see, especially the last column, these have a lot of jittering, okay? Our method doesn't care about ego motion versus object motion. It does a reasonable job latching onto the moving objects. Okay, but our segmentation only requires a single image. We don't need a video to work on. So we show that this is on DUTS. It's a saliency benchmark. And here we have image, we have picked out the foreground. Here's another one. And you look at these results, you say, oh, that's not surprising. All these seem to be cars, animals, and people. And these are moving objects, right? So maybe you have captured that. Here's the last column. We could even segment out a statue, a plate of food, a bench, so on and so forth, a boulder, okay? So when we got this result, because we didn't design for objectness. When it emerges, I was shaken as someone who has almost 2 decades of experience in segmentation. Because this says figure ground segmentation can be learned without any preconception of edges, optical flows, or saliency. The only thing we have assumed is instantaneous visual constancy. And we also impose a bottleneck. We only ask for 5 segments. We don't ask for 100 segments. When you have a bottleneck in computation, the segmentation emerges. Any questions? What? Oh, I just want to see people's reactions before everybody is dozing off. Just want to have some interactions. So I'm not talking all the time. Yes.
I see you're training these 2 models, the flow model and the segmentation, but there's no supervision. So was it hard to get these 2 to converge?
Maybe compared to supervised learning, it takes a little bit longer, but not too much. It's still very strong constraints.
And how many samples do you need to train this thing?
So this, we only trained on YouTube VOS. I mentioned earlier, only 4,000 videos. Each is about 5 seconds long. And yeah, so yeah. Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So like it also assumes that within that segment, right? For example, if you take a cow, right?
Uh-huh.
So the legs move in a certain way, but the tail is wagging in a certain way, right? So
Correct. Yeah, it's a very crude model. It's a piecewise constant in the image plane, right? There are many, tail was the different articulation. There's one issue. There's also even my hand, closer to me moves at different speed as the other. So many issues. That's the beauty of it. You don't want to get everything right at the first glance. That's actually power. It's not a convenience. It actually facilitates your computation. That's our insight. Okay, the second work is our unsupervised learning hierarchical semantics. Now, the way we train this model, we only take adjacent frames. Of course, we've done ablation, we tried the ±5, but I was thinking, is video really necessary? I could take a collection of images. There got to be some similar images. Can I just deal with this? Okay, anyway, so the second work I want to talk about is you dump me a set of images. Oh, I want to mention the previous work. There are so many unsupervised object segmentation out there, but our work is unique in the sense we don't assume optical flow. Some works assume that they have image labeled trained on ImageNet. They trained on flying chair, optical flow is no. Here we is really bootstrap for everything. We don't have anything. Okay. Okay. The second work is on this thing. So when segmentation is treated as supervised learning, you avoid a lot of problems. For example, the vocabulary is given to you, examples have given to you, it's annotated. But if you think about, you can segment this scene, me, as one person or top, upper body, lower body, 2 segments. Or it could be more refined. If I don't have supervised learning, I don't know what granularity I should aim for. So how should I even benchmark my performance? Even if I learn something good, how do I know? How do I convince you that I've done something good? No? The problem is just thrown at us. We have to resolve this that no other supervised learning needs to address. So here's an example. You have this image in MS Coco. You can think of this in maybe, I don't know, I come up with this tree. There may be some inherent annotation tree. At the top level scene, it's outdoor scene. And then you have figure ground. Figure, you have person, then you have body, okay, passing. Ground, you have trees, bushes, rocks, curbs, so on and so forth. And when you give me a vocabulary for annotation, you are essentially picking these nodes at different parts of the tree. Same image showed up in dense pose. You are picking different sets of nodes, right? The question is, unsupervised learning, if there's underlying tree, which ones I should be aiming for? So our idea is this: you have an image. We treat this, take this as a pixelized representation learning problem. You have image. You want to have the segmentation. If I have the feature, every pixel becomes a point in the feature space. I could do grouping, and that will give me segmentation. Yes. Okay. So that is a sort of co-segmentation problem. Okay. I learned from many images. If I have segmentation, I can also learn the right feature to support that segmentation. Pixels in the same group should have similar features. Things are different group, they have different features. The problem is, I don't know what the right feature should be, what the right segmentation should be. Our insight is that while we don't know what the X or feature or grouping should be, any good feature should make grouping consistent. Here's the illustration. Given an image, let's say there's some ground truth unknown to us. There's way to segment this into 10, 20, or different granularities. And let's do the multi-view extension, color flipping, so on and so forth. And we're going to do multi-view co-segmentation. Let's say we discover these fragments. And this is bottom up from finer grouping to, then we do clustering transform. We group them into pieces to be learned. And that's coarse grouping. We are going to ensure that they are consistent. If the legs, your upper leg and lower leg are together, next time you're not going to have free license to repartition the image. Part of leg goes to the background, part of leg goes to the body. That's not going to happen. You're committing to be together, you're always together. It's agglomerative. Okay? And schematically image, you learn CNN, every pixel gets a feature, and then you do cluster, and you have a transition from many segments at one granularity to the next level, coarser segments. Through this, we ensure consistency. And we can, and we have 2 losses, which does not require labels. One is a feature learning loss. If this is the segmentation, the feature should be consistent with that. And once it's grounded in the image, there's a goodness of grouping within the image plane, okay? And at the time, we have the SOTA, unsupervised semantic segmentation, even though it's a flat organization. And most importantly, we can do the first unsupervised hierarchical segmentation. There's not so much work in that space. Earlier, it's based on the BSDS with hierarchical human labeled boundaries. Of course, they only care about strong boundaries with weak boundary. It doesn't capture semantics. Here, if you ask me for 3 segments, you can see the the sheep already grouped in one, even though I don't know what they are. 6 segments, the backgrounds get refined and so on and so forth. We can benchmark, it's way better than others capturing the foreground. What's so interesting is that I learned these features in different granularities, capture segments at different scale. I have this feature space I can traverse. At the highest level, so what we can do, we can segment each image, we can learn the feature. And we can use this to retrieve similar features. See, the first one is a baseball 3-player together. You can see all these will be considered nearest neighbors. They look drastically different, yet in grouping, they're similar. We can traverse down the hierarchy and you can pick out upper torso. And these are the ones and the bottom legs, okay? Any questions? Okay.
I do have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm interested to know, like, how would you take this hierarchical grouping, especially in videos? Because then, if you have something like 2 things that are moving in the same direction, they could be grouped as one group. But then, what if there are actually in appearance space there are 2 groups? So how to control that? And then it's not just the number, because yeah, I mean, if the granularity here becomes a
very complicated.
Yeah.
There's so much to be done. I don't have good answers. So far, everything like granularity we set, it's a hyperparameter we choose. So you see another work in that flavor. Okay. But for what we are able to achieve without any labels, I thought it's still amazing. Even though everything, a lot of knobs seem to be fixed at the moment. Okay, I want to touch briefly on visual context. Oh, go ahead.
Previous like decades ago on segmentation, we have like super pixels, graph cards, which like somehow segments the entire image into several parts. Now this neural network is, in my opinion, doing something similar. Like I'm thinking, are there any like connection between these 2 different like paradigms or like?
Main difference, feature learning.
Yes, but
Earlier, the feature is fixed, but don't think it's a simple tweak. Because you change the feature, segmentation is completely different. When feature learning and segmentation learn together, it's very tricky. Feature learning can trivialize segmentation. Likewise, it goes the other way. So how do you learn both things and let this grounded in deliver something that conform to your perception? That's a challenge.
If I understood your pixel level representation learning correctly, how's it the fact that images already have different grades? So you could have a low res camera or a high res camera, and then in the high res camera, like visual algorithm performance as well.
Okay, so that's a separate problem. So I will quote your attention on this. Every pixel is a Gaussian with a small sigma. So there's inner scale, there's outer scale. I'm dealing with outer scale. You are talking about inner scale. So that's a little different. We can discuss more offline. Okay. The third thing I want to talk about is unsupervised learning of visual context. I assume I have concepts of basic objects, let's say person, okay? But if you look at these cityscape and all this, you know, they are going to give you pedestrians, riders, okay? And if you want to go finer, it could be bicycle riders, motorcycle riders, horse riders, okay? Even here, you can see the different color indicates different groups. When a person is walking, that's pedestrian. When you are riding a bike, you become rider, completely different label, okay? So you can think of all, in a way, I think the semantic is fundamentally grouping, not naming. Right? Okay, so how do, and the tricky thing is that, illustrated in this human object interaction recognition, people usually do it by this subject, verb, and a noun. Person hit ball, okay? But usually it's done by image, you have feature map, you have instance segmentation, detection, and then you combine the two info and do supervised learning with this phrase. But this approach doesn't scale. Person hit ball, watch ball, hold bat. All this combinatorial explosion will kill you before you get to it. Okay, so our idea, again, is going for representation learning, okay? We only assume instance segmentation and semantic segmentation, which is at the basic level. Once it's learned, our feature will automatically differentiate bike rider, horse rider, a motorcycle rider, because the way we are learning, each image is presenting this as a package. Horse and rider always come together. They will be mapped into somewhere that's in different space than bike rider, than pedestrian, even though the segmentation label is different. So in a way, the feature learn not only capture what the segment is, but also capture what the context the segment is embedded into. And once we have this, we have open world interpretation. Based on the feature, where you sit in the feature space, we can retrieve nearby points. And you can look at the gallery and retrieve the similar semantics if you're so inclined to have text labels. Okay, so this is some benchmarking. If we assume we know all the labels, we do sort of try to come up with the histogram of context in a 3x3 setting and use that as a descriptor for context. This is like a ceiling performance you could have. It's a simple thing, but it assumes labels on every pixel. So we show that on the human object interaction, which is very challenging data set. You can ski, skateboard, snowboarding, taking off and landing. They are completely different, but they look so similar. It's difficult to tell apart. And you can look at the oracle context is the green line. It's a sort of ceiling performance. And the yellow line is a supervised baseline. You treat this as supervised learning problem. And the blue line is at the time is a supervised SOTA performance. And the red line is ours, unsupervised context learning. We are beating the supervised SOTA. And ours only trained on COCO for semantic instantiation and directly evaluated on a HitCode data set. And if I only care about if I get the subject and noun correct, I don't care about the verb because the action sometimes is really tricky. You can see all the curve move to the right, okay? Okay, the last thing I'm most excited about is unsupervised learning of parts and wholes for recognition. Earlier, the hierarchical segmentation, I'm doing feature learning for the sake of segmentation. Here, I'm letting segmentation take a passenger seat. I want it to be driven by recognition. So here's an image. What do you see in this image? For those of you who are not fully awake, probably you see black ink blobs. Yes? Okay. For those of you who are awake, probably see a girl. And this is just showing that if this image is capturing a girl, if the girl rotated more, so you see the more of the girl, that's what you're gonna get. Yes? How many people see this? Almost everybody. But do you see a woman? Yes, how many? Okay, not as many, but so to facilitate those who have not seen, because in previous talk, I have gone over like 20 minutes. Someone just started waking up. Oh, I see woman now. So I'm facilitating with this woman, okay? Okay, so an image could be seen in many different ways. It's impoverished condition, subject to different interpretations. We can also have segmentation tasks, okay? And you say foreground, background, ink blob, faces, so on and so forth. And but the thing is segmentation is ambiguous, remember? You could have different granularities. So our first point to make is that people treat recognition and segmentation, different models, different architecture, different tasks. And that I just think is the wrong thing to do. Recognition is really just at the tip of the parsing continuum. You understand the little segments, you understand the bigger segments, you understand the full image, right? It's a continuum. Segmentation and recognition really should be connected. The second thing is, when you have recognition, when you see a girl, it doesn't mean that you have this, you understand the text. It's supported by this continuous segmentation. They are concurrent, right? You cannot see the girl without understanding the internal parsing. And most importantly, you are not going to see women's parsing, yet you recognize as a girl. It never happens. So what does that mean? Text labels are not, they are just labels. In the way, if I'm not hooked up with NLP, these are just, you can turn this into gibberish. It won't make any difference. It's just the different bins you put in for different images. You are connecting different images. Here, I'm talking about internal parsing on a single individual images. There got to be some parsing consistency. That's actually more essential. This is what you see in an image. It's not the labels you give to the image. Do you see a girl? What do you see? What is visual structure? If you don't have language, do you not see? I think what you see is this consistent grouping structure that defines the image. That defines the semantics of an image. Okay, so prior work, take an image, you have recognition. Treated as classifier, you have semantic segmentation, you have boundary segment, all different tasks, different models, different tasks. All the supervised learning. Recognition, you have image labels. Semantic segmentation, you have pixel-wise labels. Boundary segmentation, you have boundary labels. Our model, one, has it all. we have this parsing continuum. At the end of this is recognition. Internally, we have segmentation. We don't have any labels for, okay? I'm imposing the segmentation they have to be consistent across granularities. So how would we implement this? Architecturally, we only add two things. We use VIT as a baseline backbone to start with. We added two things. One, we don't use patch tokens. Patch tokens are text-inspired transformers. Ours, based on pixels, superpixels, it's a vision-inspired transformers. It's a true vision transformers, okay? The second thing is VIT have these blocks that continue going on and on. We are gonna introduce multiple granularities. So we're gonna insert graph pooling between blocks. These are the only two modifications. Of course, there's many versions of VIT try to prune tokens, but that's motivated by efficiency. Here is motivated by the essential characterization of semantics. We add recognition objective at the end because we don't have segmentation labels. The recommendation could be unsupervised. For example, every instance different, instance discrimination, or supervised. You have labels, okay? We can do either of this. And so we wonder, this is ImageNet trained without labels. So we wonder, what do we learn? What kind of segmentation, right? So you can see the VIT as baseline. We have our work. Look at the beautiful results on this very end. We have to remind you, we don't have any labels. You can see the four legs already grouped into one. The bunny, the pointy ear, without losing, it's not fuzzy, it's very clear, right? With the body and everything, discovered by themselves. And these are just refinement of these segments. I have discovered parts and wholes without any supervision. So for me, I'm amazed by these results, but how do I convince the community we've done a good job? So we benchmark on annotated part ImageNet dataset. So this is annotated with 11 categories like fish, reptile, quadruped, biped, so on and so forth, 11 categories. And then there are 40 some-ish part labels. Given this image, these are the ground truth. Fish and a fish head, fish body, fish fin, okay? And this is SAM results, the SAM, the largest model, the one you usually use. Okay, beautiful segmentation, awesome. And it actually gets the humans right. Even though it's occluded by the fish, it puts in one segment. Okay, so all our results, we have segments, we don't have names. Likewise with SAM. SAM has segments, don't have names. So we're going to use the same like open off-the-shelf OV-seg to name the segment using the vocabulary given by the data set. At the object level, there's the winner is fish. Okay, you can see everything is fish. What I find so interesting is that even the person segment, you ask the OV-seg to name it, it will name fish instead of biped. You know why? Because the fish, including the human, has the cutout of fish, okay? So the fish is winning over biped or quadruped, okay? And this, if you can do the same thing with a part of vocabulary, of course, you're not gonna go anywhere. And this is VIT example. Of course, we are comparing unsupervised learning with a VIT. It doesn't, it doesn't make much sense. Look at our beautiful results. We have the whole fish. We have even put into fish head, fish body, fish fin. Of course, we don't know the name. We were given the name afterwards. Okay. So the highlight of this is that if we benchmark on object discovery and part discovery, just focus on object, we are beating SAM, the large model, by 8% better. Sorry, get the wrong number here. 8% better, okay? And SAM is trained on 1 billion masks, on 11 million high-res images. We are trained on unlabeled 1.3 billion ImageNet images. Okay, I couldn't resist this beautiful scrambled bee illusion. Do you see bees? Yes, occluded by black ink. The idea of segment anything is, if you recognize scene with a lot of objects, you need to segment then recognize. So if I can segment right, you probably can do a good job at recognition. That's not the case. Because if I remove the occluder, do you still see bees? That's what happened in that example. And this, people in human vision have studied a long time ago. It's called Bregman's scrambled bee illusion. Anyway, we can do this on dense pose. We are unsupervised learn. You can see that this ground truth, the whole person, 4 label, 14 label, you can see our results. You already see the shape of person and body parts, unlabeled. Okay. What's so interesting is that given the image, I can feed forward the image. It's capturing vision at a glance. You take a quick glance, you see this. If it's a supervised learning, say dog versus non-dog, you have 54% accuracy. So this is sometimes you see, I'm not sure, but most likely it's dog. It's winning over other alternatives. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna adapt it during test time. I'm gonna maximize this nose activation. Can you work your visual system so that you're more certain of what you recognize? So I'm gonna increase the activation, and that triggers back prop. Okay. And then I'm gonna modify the weights for this image. Once it's modified, in supporting this recognition, and I'm gonna feed forward again, waha, you see the dog comes out in whole. The recognition shoots up to 97%. Segmentation substantiates recognition. Segmentation and recognition always adapt together and supports recognition. We can benchmark, you can see before and after. If the segmentation was poor to begin with, you can do test time adaptation. You can see they always improve, And I was curious, so if it's already good, I still ask you to see, can you do better in recognition? And you can see there's something, some of the points kind of drop quite a bit. I say, what happened? What happened to those points? And the bottom are these examples. Initially, they already got the whole head of the dog. But if you ask for more, it shrinks to only the discriminated part. It'll throw away some of the like white furs, which sort of looks like background. Okay? Okay, then the segmentation, the key thing is that it can lead to better generalization to downstream task. Before tuning, after tuning, we are better. And if we do put a benchmark on recognition, is our recognition with such a constrained architecture, is it better? We are on par or better, and we are a lot more efficient. So we have extended this work going from a flag taxonomy, isolated semantics, to hierarchical taxonomy. Without getting into details, this was just released today. Our archive, we can reduce the confusion between two different granularities. And I'll just conclude. I started by saying that the mainstream of thinking is that all these are different tasks. My view to that segmentation is essential. It takes a different role in these tasks. And there's a structure in segmentation that enables unsupervised learning. That's the essence of understanding images without the text supervision, semantic supervision. And segmentation serves the master of recognition in this case. It is learned by recognition. Whatever it learns, it is discovers parts and wholes for recognition. And I think the segments it discovers, it really, the way I envision this is it leads to better generalization in general. And this is how the visual intelligence emerges. That's all. And I'm happy to take questions.
So thanks, Stella, you for the amazing talk. Because we're over time, we'll allow only one question. Anyone has a question? Yeah, go ahead.
With random videos, so just random objects, like synthetic data.
Random videos. If I have a camcorder, I walk around, I don't think, we haven't done it, but I don't think it will work well. And I think there's some like flying around the coast. There are certain things, more, with more intent, maybe work better. So I think the interesting bit is that in a bigger scheme of things, I'm thinking of this to be integrated with a mobile agent. This multimodal will boost it. If I have here something, I will orient my head. Initially, the images, I can't make sense of it, but I hear it, I orient towards it. It may help you discover sounding objects. So in a way, it's in the grand scheme of things with multimodal. Remember I said that modeling is about making sense of all the comprehensive sensory information you have. In that scheme, I think this will work. So I'm solving aspects of this, but I'm pushing for this unsupervised learning. And I'm calling to the community for more fresh blood to join me in that effort.